Happy Halloween! Alright, let me take this crap off. Sorry guys, I know this is super late. We're practically in December. We're way past Halloween at this point. But you know what? I've just been crazy busy, so please forgive me for being this late with this video. In any case, hello, I hope you're doing well. Even though this video is shockingly delayed, I just had to make some time to talk about it. Because I felt that there wasn't that much in terms of good horror games for this year's Halloween. Sure, there were some, like I think the first that comes to mind would be A Plague Tale Requiem, which has its grotesque moments and it definitely is an insane and terrifying experience in many ways, but personally I think this game is much more about the character development than the horror per se. Otherwise, we do have Scorn, which is an excellent game, but as I mentioned in a previous video, perhaps it's not the right candidate for a Halloween party, seeing as it's a total slow burn and just a giant question mark. Now, all that being said, lo and behold, Signalis, an indie survival horror game that comes out right in time for Halloween. I was blessed to catch this thing completely by surprise because honestly, I had no idea this thing was coming out until it actually released. And I imagine it's much the same for you folks. I think it just went completely under the radar, hence my burning desire to make a video to talk about this game. And thank God I found it because it's such a unique gaming experience. There's really nothing else like it. This game is developed by Rose Engine, a group of 2 developers from Hamburg, Germany. And as far as I can tell, this is their first project that began back in 2014. So it's been a long time coming with this game. And this is a bit of a side note, but acclaimed film director Guillermo del Toro presented this game at the 2021 Tribeca Games Spotlight Digital Showcase. Anyway, that's pretty damn cool to have a filmmaker of the caliber of Guillermo del Toro come and spotlight this indie game. And honestly guys, immediately upon starting this game, I had this ooh reaction when I started playing this game. It is so unique in its execution. It has an incredible atmosphere. Right from the start, the game presents you with many unique camera perspectives. Of course, it's usually isometric, at a classic survival horror, but it breaks that expectation frequently and immediately. We regularly switch to first person for interacting with puzzles or various objects in the environment. These show off a detailed image for you to decipher. Those first person scenes are also used to great effect in these dreamlike sequences that recall some of the best narrative, experimental walking simulators in recent years. And add on top bits and pieces of beautiful pixel art anime-like cutscenes that fuel the sensation of broken memories in this intriguing, mysterious narrative. Truly, Signalis is another win in the modern age of pixel art gaming. It's beautiful, detailed, disturbing, and incredibly memorable. It really is some powerful stuff, and like I said, one of the strongest first impressions I've had in the game all year long. Aesthetics aside, Signalis features all the classic elements of survival horror games. For example, limited ammunition with enemies in tight corridors. You also have kicking enemies while they're down to save ammunition. You have save rooms with storage boxes to store your excess loot since you have very limited inventory space. And of course, you have doors that are locked by keycard, doors that can only be unlocked from behind, or doors that are just simply broken and you will never access. And of course, that information is displayed on a map that you can interact with. And of course, as you can imagine, you're constantly rewarded for your exploration and observation skills to scrounge the dark environment and find key objects or just resources such as ammunition or healing objects. And of course, you'll be tasked to solve various puzzles. And on that note, I must give the game very high praise. Signalis has without a doubt some of the best puzzle design I've seen all year long. They're creative and unique, and there is no copy-paste design here. And they're just challenging enough to hit that sweet spot balance of what the hell am I doing here, to then have that aha moment that feels super satisfying. Finally, I appreciate how they use the radio here as a unique gameplay mechanic that works very well in the world building and also leads to some interesting puzzles. And this makes a good segue into sound design. Signalis has a very quiet and melancholic soundtrack that perfectly complements this cold, dark world. The save room music is equally recognizable and very calming, as it should be. And the quiet narrative moments are equally memorable. And then there are the frightening moments when you encounter enemies in the hallways. Damn, that sound design was terrifying. It made me want to just sprint past the enemies as fast as I could. Honestly, that sound design made me have flashbacks back when I was playing Silent Hill 1 for the first time, especially in Midwich Elementary School. That place was terrifying and still haunts me to this day. So it's extremely high praise for Signalis to have that kind of comparison. And I do mean it. But while we're on the topic of horror, do I find this game scary? Perhaps I'm a bit biased, seeing as I was put through hell in Silent Hill, and that just set the bar so high that it's kind of impossible to reach it. So personally, I don't find it all that scary. Disturbing, intense, yes, absolutely, and definitely some challenging gameplay moments, especially near the end of the game. But in terms of horror itself, not really. I was never particularly dreading my exploration of the environment, apart from the expected gameplay challenges. But like I said, I may be biased here, so please by all means leave a comment below and let me know if I'm alone on this one. It's possible that other people are finding this game absolutely terrifying, and I would love to know. Anyway, even though it's not quite as scary as I might have liked it to be, it's still super refreshing to get this old school style of survival horror back again in modern times. The Resident Evil remakes are great and all, and in fact, they set the industry standards for remakes. But this is a 100% love letter to the survival horror games of the PS1 era, games such as Resident Evil, Parasite Eve, and of course, Silent Hill. And it's a decidedly experimental and poetic take on that genre. I love all the little unnecessary details that went into this game. For example, there's that eye that follows your selections in the main menu, or the save system that stresses you if you choose to continue without saving. And yes, that save system is 100% inspired from Silent Hill. Now, even though I love this game for the most part, I do think it has its fair number of issues. Sometimes interactions with objects can be really inconsistent, and that is a bit of a deal breaker, especially nowadays. For example, you need to find the sweet spot when interacting with a door or an object. Especially with enemies chasing you in the environment, the game never really pauses when you're picking up an item or unlocking a door. I found myself in several situations where I sprint past the enemy successfully. Then I find a sweet spot to interact with the door, I unlock it, and then I need to fiddle about again with the joystick to yet again find that sweet spot to then go through the door. In these messy moments, I usually get hit 1 or 2 times, and seeing as resources are limited in this game, it's quite painful. And for the record, I do buy into the idea that you need to properly time your actions to sprint across the room, successfully dodge the enemies, pick up the item, and then get out. But unfortunately, the execution of that ends up being much more frustrating than it is scary. So it doesn't help the game. Additionally, you have an annoyingly limited inventory space, which results in you backtracking to and fro various rooms, back to the safe room to drop off stuff, and then go back and pick up things. Honestly, I wasted a lot more time than I would have liked. And even though you do have some doors that you can unlock for shortcuts, you still end up having this excessive back and forth to your storage box. Furthermore, there's at least one moment that had me so confused as to what the hell the game wanted me to do. Obviously, I won't go into detail to spoil things, but honestly, I wasn't sure if this was a puzzle or just a really weird enemy encounter. It ended up being a weird enemy encounter, but I didn't realize that until I was nearly finished with the game. It was finally then that I understood what the hell the game wanted me to do. But initially, I figured things out completely by accident. And honestly, it was pretty frustrating and completely counterintuitive, in my opinion. And it doesn't help that the feedback on screen was so noisy and glitched out. Honestly, this would have been a super cool visual and auditory moment if it weren't for the confusion around the gameplay. And I do want to highlight that I absolutely love the distorted and glitched out visual style and aesthetic that this game has. I do think it gives the game an incredible unique quality that makes it stand out among its peers. And it is worthy of praise. But unfortunately, this situation, it did not help the game. Honestly, I was genuinely worried at one point that I would have an epilepsy attack. I was literally getting dizzy while I was trying to figure out what the game wanted me to do. If you are at risk of epilepsy attacks, perhaps stay away from this game. Now, I don't want to rob you further of the excitement and joy of discovering this game. If you are a fan of the old school survival horror games, this is a must play. And this is yet another indie darling that gets added to the Game Pass. Christ, at this point, I feel like I'm becoming an Xbox spokesman with this YouTube channel. What can I say? I give praise when it is merited. And honestly, the indie community has been so well supported by the Xbox Game Pass, and I'm more than happy to support the devs with a parallel purchase of the game if I really enjoyed it, which in many of these cases, as you may have seen on this channel, I really do. What a delightful surprise. Do I think this game is perfect? Of course not. Do I think this game reinvents everything we knew about the survival horror genre? Not really. But it's an incredibly stylish iteration on the genre that made me nostalgic for the good old days. I think it also proves that there's still plenty of creative juice left to be extracted from that style of gaming. So yeah, I love this game, and I'm gonna give Signalis an 8.5 out of 10. I'm glad I caught wind of this surreal, psychedelic, cyberpunk, survival horror gaming experience. It's quite remarkable in many ways. And once again, I apologize, I'm as late as I am with this video. I promise you guys, I have not been idle. Anyways, better late than never, I guess. And that is all for today. As always, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you very soon.